presentations, and we're going to start with one of the groups on school leadership that works. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right, so we read the book School Leadership That Works by Marzano, Waters, and McNulty. And I'm going to be talking about In Search of School Leadership. So the book focuses on specific leadership practices, and they're investigating to see if research proves that leadership practices impact achievement in any way. So the past and current beliefs, leadership is very vital to school effectiveness, and it says that leadership occurs universally among people regardless of culture, whether they are in isolated Indian villages or basically anywhere else that you may go. Strong leadership can be seen as a precondition for an effective school. So there's been not a lot of research done in this area. There's conflicting views. Some people don't believe that leadership has impact on this. Some people do. And this book just looks up a lot of research to prove that it does impact achievement of students. But previous research can be ambiguous. A different perspective. Some claim that leadership has, as I said, no relation to student achievement. And this text claims that research over the past 3 decades suggests that specific leadership behaviors have well-documented effect on the achievement of students. So we learned about the meta-analysis studies, and this is data from multiple sources. So they look at a whole bunch of research, and it needs to be conducted and continued to be conducted multiple times to prove and identify like specific research and leadership behaviors that impact and benefit students in the long run. And it's just different the way that you look at it. The nature of function of meta-analysis, it's the combination of published and unpublished research studies and techniques that synthesize a large amount of research, and it's quantitative data, and this is numbers and things that can be measured. And just so you know, I looked up quantitative versus qualitative data, and as I said, quantitative is numbers, and qualitative is more observational things. And basic findings. So it's okay, thank you.
Sorry.
I don't know who's doing it, but you're doing a great job. Is that Taylor? After examining 69 studies through this book, there were 2,802 schools and approximately 1.4 million students, 14,000 teachers that were computed in this correlation between leadership behavior of a principal in school and the average academic achievement of students in the school. And I really found this beneficial to me to look at. So this chart, it shows that school leadership showed an increase of 2,500s, and if they began in the 50th percentile. So if you look at this chart here, the increase in leadership, if you start in the 50th percentile, you saw a 34% increase. And then over time, there's a 34% projected increase among student achievement. So it did show a correlation, and I found that to be very helpful and interesting. Conclusions for the future. So I just thought this was something to think about. Some researchers and theorists assert that the best research on school leadership is equivocal, and at the worst demonstrates that leadership has no effect on student achievement. So I thought this was great because they could only find that, oh, it doesn't matter, but if they found that it does matter, then they can pinpoint what leadership styles were the most beneficial and help harness achievement in students. So I think whether this research proved or didn't prove, which it did show to prove, it can help us learn for the future and inform educators and administrators and teachers of how to better tailor their instruction and leadership for their teachers and students. Next is going to be about theories and theorists on leadership. So there's transactional and transformational leadership. The book discusses management by exception, which is passive, management by exception, which is active, and the transactional leadership. The transactional is not what is widely received today to be beneficial. Today, educators more widely accept transformational leadership. And number 4, it says instructional leadership is the most popular form of leadership today, and it's probably what most of our administrators are using. This would be like a PLC, teaching, curriculum, good strategies, and kind of harnessing your teacher leaders and developing teacher leaders, because it's not just about this form of leadership isn't just about the leader, it's about making leaders lead your school as a team. And I just like broke down the prominent theorists that they talked about in the book here. I'm just going to focus on 3 of them because the authors of this book, they focus on Collins, and Collins noticed the differences of good versus great leadership. Then Elmore, he tried to understand the effect of curriculum practices, like what practices specifically harness achievement in students. And then, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but Ronald Heftes, and he worked with Marty Leninsky, and he believed that leadership is adaptable. So the authors of this book, in the conclusion, these 3 theorists provided the base of information that helped the research for this text in particular. So I felt that their leadership studies were the most beneficial and relevant to this text. The meta-analysis is the next section of the book that I went over. This just talks about the study. So as I mentioned before, it studied 69 studies, and it looked from the 1970s forward, and they had they were in touch with over 650 principals, 39 elementary studies, 6 middle school studies, 10 high school studies, and 200 K-8 schools, and then K-12 schools, they had 499. The researchers looked at general leadership and general student achievement. The findings, an increase in leadership behavior from the 50th percentile to the 90th percentile is associated with an increase in student achievement from the 50th percentile to the 72nd percentile. So I remade this chart from the book. So I just thought that the top half of principals, they had 62.5% of students passing the test and 37.5% failing. And it was just a big gap because the bottom half of principals had 37.5% passing and 62.5% not passing. So I thought that was interesting. In conclusion, I thought that the meta-analysis indicated that principals can have a profound effect on student achievement for their schools, and I agreed with that quote, so I included it in here. And I thought some things that we could think about: will more research be done to support these findings, and will our future leaders be chosen and evaluated to make sure that the ones who can help, or to help make sure these leaders are the ones to empower our school achievement? I just thought there was something to think about that related to this. Okay, and I think that's Bukala's section. So would I stop now?
Yeah, so I'm going to take over from where Jamie left off.
Okay.
And she left off on, I believe, Yeah. So I'm going into the 21 responsibilities that the researchers talked about. And in order for them to, I guess, compute these 21 responsibilities, they got all these responsibilities from pretty much their research, which was, Jamie mentioned that it was 69 studies. And after their revisions, they came up with these 21s. And these 21, they're not brand new to like the literature world, as they said in the book. They said it was just never been named like the 21 responsibilities. They gave it the name 21 responsibilities. And I just listed all of them here. And they did like a correlation table, which kind of like compared like how important each responsibility was to student achievement. And that's going to be the next slide that we're going to go into. But before we go into, thank you, Taylor. So yeah, go ahead. So in this slide, it just lists like all the responsibilities and the correlation with your achievements and their numbers. So for example, situational awareness, and that is pretty much when, just give me 1 minute while I look for that in my notes. It's when the principal is the extent to which a principal is aware of the details and under a current of the running of the school. So pretty much the principal being aware of what's going on in the school on a daily basis really matters. And that response and the correlation for that is 0.33. And also flexibility is another one that was also very important, which got 0.28. And just that's when a principal is like has the ability to be flexible and always welcomes new ideas in their school, and they're just not stuck on their own idea, which really helps the school move forward. So the next one will be discipline and outreach and monitoring, evaluating. That's another responsibility that was noted as important. So just having a strong like leadership in terms of like discipline and sticking to your guns when you hold the line, and always like just reaching out to the community that the school is in. So that helps the parent comes in, which makes the parent involvement team strong. And when parent involvement is strong, there's no way the school can't fail with a parent behind it. Because when this principal has a parent behind it, when the school has the parent support, then they're pretty much on a good path like that. And then the next one will be 0.25, the correlation achievement for these ones will be culture, order, resource, knowledge of curriculum, instruction and assessment, input and change agent. And 0.24, that one was focus, contagion rewards, and intellectual stimulation. And the next one down would be communication. And then we go to ideal and beliefs, involvement in curriculum and instruction, assessment, visibility, and optimizer. And affirmation is very important. And I believe the last one is, can't really see that one, but it is relationships. So my understanding, I guess, after reading this was like, as in terms of the correlations, because I was a bit confused about it, so I had to do a little bit of research. So as they also stated in the text that 95% of the correlations are between the values of 0.8 and 0.28. And a correlation of 0.8 implies that an increase in the principal effectiveness in the relationship from the 50th percentile is associated with an increase in school achievement. So from the 50th percentile to the 57th percentile. So for example, situational awareness addresses the idea that school leaders is aware of details and undercurrent in the running of the school. So situational awareness has the highest correlation of achievement, which is 0.33. And this makes sense because it means the principal must understand the connotation of running a school. So I hope that helps you better understand the numbers and actual each responsibility. And then moving on, they talked about the two different kind of changes. The first change is the first order of change, and then we have the second order of change. With the first order of change, it is change that is incremental. So this kind of change is obvious. It's the one that you see daily in a school, the physical one that you notice. And the factor analysis proves all 21 responsibilities that we've just talked about are important to first order of change, but they're not equally important, but all of them are actually important. Moving on to the second order of change. In the text, the second order of change is anything that is that is but anything but incremental. It's normal. It's normally dramatic and foreseen. So it's one of those changes that you're not even expecting, like a leadership, someone in your administration quitting. That is something that is foreseen. You're not expecting it to happen, and it could definitely put a damp on like the school culture and what's happening in the school as itself. So factor analysis proves that only 7 of the 21 responsibilities are related to the second order of change. And the 21 responsibilities that are related to this order of change will be knowledge of curriculum, instruction and assessment, optimizer, intellectual stimulation, change agent, monitoring and evaluating, flexibility and beliefs, and ideals and beliefs. And that will be my part.
Perfect. I'll take over from here. This is Taylor. So I have this section where it talks about doing the right work. Harvard scholar Richard Elmore concluded that knowing the right thing to do is a central problem of school improvement. So a lot of times administrators, they want to come in and they want to take care of the problems, but you have to know what the right problem is before attacking it. So in lower performing schools, oftentimes it is not the lack of effort from administration and students, it is the decision of what to work on. So although their intentions may be right, and they're working hard for the students, they need to find the right things to work on in order to make progress. So the next section I had was using a CSR model. So some characteristics of the CSR model. It's federally funded, implemented usually for low achieving schools. They have a lot of high quality professional development. It's based on scientific research, and it involves the parents and the community. So I listed a few methods. The first is direct instruction, used in a regular classroom. Goal of the students is functioning above grade level by the 5th grade, math, reading, and language. The second one was success for all. That's grades K through 8. The goal of every student is to learn to read efficiently. And the third, trying to hide this. The third is the school development plan, and that's this. There's a school planning team, student and staff support team, and a parent team, all collaborating. So some generalizations of the CSR model. They found that the costs vary depending on the school district, depending on the model that they use. It could range anywhere from $0 to $208,000, depending on which model they adopt. It can be fairly expensive, and the effectiveness also varies considerably. Some studies involved up to 182 schools, and then some studies involved only 1 school. So one might conclude that a typical student in the CSR school would lose a great deal of ground to the typical student in the non-CSR school. CSR models have a perplexing pattern of effects over time. I thought this was pretty interesting. So schools that stuck with the CSR model for 5 years, they could expect a dramatic achievement gain with student testing scores. However, results show that progress remains basically the same over the first 4 years. So if they stick with it for 5 years, they have a better chance of showing student progress. The next section I had was designing a site-specific approach. A site-specific intervention creates or identifies an intervention that addresses the specific needs of the school. So some factors, there was a wide range of factors. Viability refers to whether the stated curriculum can be adequately taught in the instructional time available for teachers. Challenging goals and effective feedback. So that was like when students receive report cards, it's not just grades. It's, they break it down in specific areas, and they give specific feedback within like the core content areas. Some of the factors continued. Obviously, we've talked a lot about parent and community involvement. the home environment, I mean, motivation, learned intelligence, and background knowledge. So these are all factors that can. And then here is our references. So do we go to question and answer?
Yeah, you did a good job, and your timer just rang. You were perfectly timed today.
Perfect.
So what are some thoughts, particularly from the other group, that you're having right now about this text?
Close that door. Turn it down.
Taylor, you can just send it to me.
Okay.
You can share it with me or send it to me. It's fine. Would you recommend this book to other aspiring administrators or administrators?
I will. I actually did to one of our new leaders in my school, because we recently just had one of our principals quit. So they took someone from in-house instead of hiring from outside. So he asked, we were talking, and he was pretty nervous because I don't think he was expecting to get the position, even though he applied for it. So I recommended that he should read the book, because I really like the 21 responsibilities.
Yeah, I agree. I like the breakdown of the leadership. I think some of the data points were a little confusing for me to understand, but other than that, I really like the book.
So you learned a lot about data in this book too, huh?
Yeah, the data.
It is, and all of Marzano's work is really heavy data-based.
Yeah.
And his conversations and his presentations are the same. They're pretty data-based. He's not necessarily easy to listen to.
Yeah.
However, he is, I mean, the data that he gives us is really nice. So, and sometimes people feel like the 21 responsibilities are too much. But in reality, we've looked at like teacher, principal evaluations already. I mean, those 21 things are embedded in it. So, all right, who's screen sharing?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. You can take off screen share. Monique, were you guys able to get your computer going?
Yes, we should be. We just wake up. Okay.
So you're ready to share your screen? Oh, great.
If you do. Do you want us to start or?
Yep. Jamie, can you guys see it?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. Yep. I'll set a timer, but feel free to start, and we can use the chat feature to ask questions or just kind of keep our thinking going.
Okay. All right. I'm Tashia Hicks. And I'm Monique Jefferson. And we decided to do our book project on school leadership that works from research to results, considering that we work together at a school that is a turnaround school, and it is focusing on transforming the school along with the children's data. So we're going to start our presentation off. The rationale. The dimension of leadership practice that have a significant impact on student outcomes include establishing goals and expectations, resourcing strategically, designing, evaluating, and coordinating the curriculum and teaching, leading professional learning, and ensuring an orderly and supportive environment. We basically felt that these were the key pointers that they was talking about in the book that established the things that's needed for an effective environment. So we included these things inside of our rationale. Next, we will go to the major ideas that we kind of talked about. We kind of just gave our summaries based on what we felt was relevant to our daily life. So we chose the chapters, Chapter 2, Leadership Styles, Chapter 4, 21 Responsibilities of a School Leader,
and Chapter 5, to create 2 types of change, and Chapter 7, create a plan.
Okay. I also included something from Chapter 1, which is Chapter 1 is Search of School Leadership, where Marzano and his colleagues talked about the 2 types of schools that you have. You have an effective school, and you also have an ineffective school. A lot of people come to schools and they're not aware of what type of school that they, like their demographics to their servicing. So they come in, they try to use their techniques that they use at another school in hopes that it will work, but instead of trying to create new strategic things to help that school survive, they try to use the old way, which kind of makes the school ineffective instead of effective.
And what we learned in this process is if you learn and understand the total community, the school environment, to see where the school is actually at, then it comes to a point where you can say where it's effective or ineffective, or statistics in order to make it effective.
Okay, so in Chapter 2, one of the main ideas, it was talking about the 2 types of leaders. So me and Monique kind of broke it down. She chose a leadership style, and I chose a leadership style that we felt that was relevant to what we do on a daily basis, because our school, like we said, is a turnaround school. And I'm sorry to keep saying this terminology, but this is what we hear on a daily basis all day. All they keep drilling into their educators is we're turn around. So they're so focused on the data that they're not trying to create the correct leadership style that is needed in order to make sure that data is effective to create change.
Or doesn't understand it. We need to include all of the aspects, not just the data.
So we have different type of leadership styles, but 2 of the leadership styles that we felt that was relevant was situational leadership style, and Monique elaborate on that.
So we said in the situational leadership style, basically focus on increments in regards to steps, a process. For unskilled, in situational leadership, the leader adapts leadership behavior to the followers' maturity based on their willingness and their ability. So basically, kind of, you meet your staff where they are.
The situations occur from day to day. So when you're in a situation leadership, you never know what may take place at your school. You have to be able to adapt to whatever. So some children may be unskilled and unwilling, which they may need more directive services, like one-on-one time. Then you have unskilled but willing children. They're unskilled, but they want to learn. So you have to create a more friendly environment for them that's more concrete and a little directive to their needs. Then skilled and unwilling, they may be skilled, but they don't want to learn. I have a lot of children in my class that are very smart, but they do not want to learn because their community at home is affecting their community within the school.
It all has to do with behavior.
It does.
And that's what we really deal with and I'm quite sure you all as educators can identify with us. Maybe not, because of the area we working in.
We're servicing low-income students, so we have a lot of students that are unskilled and unwilling, unskilled and willing, skilled and unwilling, and then skilled and willing. So I have like maybe 2 in my class that's skilled and willing. So you got to think about out of 30 children, those 2 that may want to learn. So I have to use different techniques with all children to make sure they are all learning. So the instructional leadership focuses on what they're trying to basically do now. They want all instructors to be on the same level. We have different resources that's provided for us on a daily. We have data meetings that we have to attend in order to get the instructional resources. They're prepping us to be communicators, which means that we are willing and have that open lines of communication to make sure we are addressing any issues or needs that is in the school. We are a resource provider. We provide resources not only for our children, but for ourselves and our families and our other colleagues as well. Like there's so many of my colleagues that's constantly coming in my classroom. Well, I found this website that you can use for your kids, and it's been very beneficial. And then having the visible presence. They want us to be, not just say that we're leaders, but they want us to show that we are actually the leader. We're walking the daily walk. So it's harder than what you think, because whatever is happening, your outside factors resources, you have to take that into consideration with that school. So if you're affected at home, that can affect what's going on with you in the classroom. So you got to make sure that everything is leveled out in order for you to be that voice for those children.
However, I believe instructional leadership carries the operation of the entire school community, because it provides the resources, it gives the instructions, and the communication, and it also the vision, and make sure the vision is seen, carried out.
So our next slide, we're talking about chapter 4, where there were 21 responsibilities of leader, which our other group focused on. But we just decided to pull out the 12 out of the 21 that we felt that was, like, once again, beneficial to our school environment, and beneficial that we feel that's beneficial to an effective school in general. So I'll let Monique start with some of them, and then I'll just jump in.
One, the communication. Establishing a clear line of communication is so vital in the school community, and just period, in and outside of the school. This, of course, communication involves building and developing relationship in and outside of the school. And then next is culture. We foster shared beliefs. So the culture, we have to make sure we maintain a specific culture that we want to be led by, or actually to operate in. So that is very, very important. And next would be discipline. Protects teachers from interruption of the educational process. So the learning environment, the entire learning environment, to protect in regards to.
And next, we have flexibility. That's basically where a teacher is able to adapt his or her own leadership behavior to the needs of the current situation. That goes back to situation. You have to be flexible and ready for whatever's happening in the school. You are never going to be aware of what's going to happen. It's a day-to-day basis. That's things that's going on. So if you're not one of those type of people, being in the school system is really not good for you. And then the focus. So you need to have clear goals that is set and that is achievable. I've been teaching my children in school to make SMART goals that you actually can obtain and you can reach. They're clear, and you will be able to obtain them before a certain period of time. So making sure everyone knows what's the plan. That goes back to communication. Being the clear line of communication is open, so we all can be clear. The input involves other teachers in the design and implementation.
It goes a lot with teamwork.
Teamwork, collaboration. Our school is big on collaboration.
We also serve on our data team at our school that we meet every other week outside of our weekly staff meeting. So in reference to that, we always have to
constantly collaborate,
right, with other teachers, and just making sure what we're doing is working for our students.
Figure out what we need to do to make it
review it over, and then we review it over, and then actually go in for the following week to do something and make the changes, necessary changes.
Then we have intellectual stimulation, which makes sure staff is aware of current theories. That, like Monique was just saying, that's why we have the data meetings. Whatever new data and resources that are provided, they make sure that they are providing them for the teachers at the data meetings, and we are able to implement those and are actually in the instruction time. We have involvement in curriculum. Is directly involved in the design and implementation of the curriculum, instruction, assessment practices. This is what we do daily. We are implementing the curriculum, the instruction, and assessment. These are the words that we're hearing on a constant. So I feel that this is what is needed in order to make a school actually work.
And also, just piggying back off of what Tashia going on to knowledge of curriculum, is knowledgeable about current curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices. Monitoring and evaluation, we know that is very valuable. Monitoring our results and evaluating everything in order to see if we need to make necessary changes, or do we remain, or is it working what we already have in effect. So next is practices and their impact on student learning. Practicing and their impact on student learning is very vital.
And then we have order, which establishes a set of standard operating procedures and routines. So basically that goes back to behavior management, that you need order inside of your classroom, which talks about the first order and the second order. We will be talking about that later on in the presentation, but that is needed in order to make sure your instruction is flowing, because if you have chaos in your classroom, your students will not be able to learn. You need classroom management, and they are very strict on our school about classroom management, because every time that is a second that is spent on making the wrong choice, you have to spend more seconds to redirect them to make the right choice, and that takes away from learning time. And then the last one we felt was important was relationships. You have to be open to create relationships with parents, staff, and your students. If you cannot make those relationships work, you will not have an effective relationship within the school.
Also, in other readings we read over the past weeks, relates to the relationship and building relationship on the regarding the business level for school leaders, which helps keep you up of a level of education and helps where we can, we can train our students, not train, but teach our students where they can be successful citizens for the future. And in doing so, it's important to develop relationship inside and outside of the school, especially in the community. Community partnership is very vital at this point.
Some other ones is some critical components. It says enable teachers to deliver standards, align tests, and providing them with tools to analyze results for individualization in the classroom, improve instruction and student performance, assist with change and management processes and curriculum, and provide assessment and remediation. So how does school leadership affect student achievement? Monique is going to talk about that.
Thank you, Tashia. Provides educators with a tool to view assessment results and immediately identify performance gaps. Collaboration from staff, teachers, administrators, and students, all stakeholders. Embracing standards and connecting data and curriculum.
So we feel that these three components is needed in order to make sure student achievement is possible within the school, and also make sure that the school leadership is on the same page. You need to analyze data, and you need to review what that is in order to figure out what you need to do to correct that data. It's important for you to collaborate with staff, teachers, and administrators, and students, and all stakeholders. The better relationships you have, the better relationship it will be inside of the school, the community. Your outside community is inside. And then embracing the standards. A lot of schools are not embracing the standards and connecting the data and curriculum. We are required to do very extensive data lesson plans that's due every Wednesday, and if our students do not grade with the standards, we are required to reteach those standards to them to ensure that they are learning the material. So we are embracing our standards and connecting to data, which is using the data to see where they're lacking in those standards, and then include that in our curriculum to make sure they're getting the standards. Okay. Topic of importance is chapter 3, meta-analysis. We kind of broke it down and we kind of just generalized it because we're talking about assessments in our school and things of that nature. So we just talk about the type of tests and data that they use in one of the assessments. So we felt that assessment is a critical component of any school, because if you don't have an assessment, you won't be able to know what areas you're weak in and what areas you need to make strong. So the assessment is an integral part of instruction, and it determines whether or not the goals of education are being met. Assessment affects decisions about grades, placement, advancement, instructional needs, curriculum, and in some cases, funding. Assessment inspires us to ask 3 hard questions. Are we teaching what we think we are teaching? Are students learning what they're supposed to be learning? Is there a way to reteach the subject better, thereby promoting better learning? So that is very important for assessments, because assessments help you to learn better.
Why is assessment needed? For decision-making, planning for instruction, reporting progress, and evaluating. Provide change in the school.
So now we're going to go to two type of ways to create change and how they broke it down. First, they talked about first order, which that change is incremental. And basically, you have to start that off in steps. When you create change to someone, you have to be careful with it. You have to be careful when you are bringing a change because everyone is not open to change. At our school, the school leader was big on creating a new team. All the old people that were there, she let go because they were not assessing students the proper way to figure out what areas they needed to change. So she created this whole new team. She called it the Dream Team, and she all did it in increments. She got her team together, then she started to give us the resources and the data that we needed in order to make sure that it was happening correctly. So she did it. We saw it happen in literally increments. And then Monica's going to talk about second order.
Second order alters the system in fundamental ways, requires new ways of thinking and acting. According to page 70, saying that all 21 responsibilities are related to the first order change is another way of saying that all 21 should define the standard operating procedures in a school. Leadership for second order change. They found second order change is related to 7 other responsibilities: knowledge of curriculum, optimizer, intellectual stimulation, change agent, monitoring and evaluating, flexibility, ideas, and belief. Second order change manifests only in context of a specific problem or issue. 3 of the 7 responsibilities.
I'm sorry, that was a mistake. Monique's going to finish the bottom. She said 3 of the 7 responsibility important to second order are ranked low in terms of their relative importance to the first order change. So we have challenging, status quo, optimizer, and flexibility. So those are the 3 that they felt was the most important. And then in chapter 6, we have doing the work. Downfall of schools has to do with poor decision about what to work on. 2 approaches, the CSR and site-specific. Extent to which CSR has research supporting them varies widely. Highly uneven effect on achievement. The more staff development, the lower the effort effect size. Marzano et al. Interpretation of this is that only when schools adapt to the model to their specific needs does it become optimized. Models must be adapted if they are to be sustained. According to the author here, what works in schools models outline factors that could be the focus of school reform. Each of the 11 represents an area of change that can be implemented without big funding and all are doable. The 11 factors that can help focus on school reform. You have factor 1, which is once curriculum is trained to its issues, it can be guaranteed. You cannot have a big, broad, a very, very, very big curriculum and expect everyone is going to follow just like that. You have to be able to trim some down and actually do the factor 1 with creating change, the part 1, which is increments. Factor 2, challenging goals and effective feedback. Factor 3, which is parent community involvement, which is a big key of any school. You need parent and community involved because that is what's going to make our school grow. Factor 4 is safe and orderly. Factor 5 is collegiality and professionalism. Factor 6, instructional strategies. Factor 7, classroom management. And Factor 8, classroom curriculum design. Decisions teachers make to adopt the content in the textbook standard curriculum guides. Okay, and you have to consider what students already know about a particular topic. Factor 9, home improvement discussion. School, provide work support, monitor TV, monitor homework. Factor 10, learning intelligence and background knowledge. Crystallized intelligence. They claim biggest predictor of student achievement. Direct vocabulary instruction. We have like direct words in our class where we inform students on ways to say and different things of that nature. Because a lot of students are, their reading and their English is very bad because no one is taking the time with them to show them different ways to do things. So it's good to be flexible. Wide reading. And factor 11 is motivation. Motivation is the biggest key. In order to get these children to succeed, we have to be motivators and showing them that they can do the work no matter what the circumstance is and never giving up. Material to that. And then last, we have chapter 7, create a plan that works for the school leadership. So like I said earlier with our school, how develop a strong leadership team. In order to know where you're going in life, you need to know that you have someone that's going to have your back and someone that's going to be there with you along the ride. So developing a strong school leadership team will make sure your school is providing the best education for your students. And no one can address all the 21 well alone. So a purposeful community establishes goals that matter to all, development and use available assets agreed upon. So basically, like with our school collaboration, we work with each other to see which ones benefit each other instead of just trying to throw all of them out there and expect everyone is just supposed to just conquer all of them. So it's best to see agree on which ones that everyone agree with, and then find ways to actually implement those. Then number 2, we said distribute the responsibility among the team members.
That goes for accountability.
That's accountability. So for example, with assessments, we are accountable for what our students did not learn. That's why we have to reteach the standards, because somewhere along the line, our instruction they did not get, and we did not make sure they did not get it. So we have to go back and make sure they get it again, so we don't have to have that happen again. So that's called teamwork. And then lastly is select the right work. The work, what works in schools. So you basically have to figure out what pattern and what strategies and strategies is good for your school. Every school does not perform the same, so it's best to find what works for you and make it work. Number 4, identify order of magnitude required by the selected work. One person's first order change may be another person's second order change. So you would basically have to figure out what ways that you all can migrate your own opinions and views to make it work. Number 5, match the management style to the order of the magnitude of change initiative. First order change requires attention to all 21s. So bringing up the 21 inside of a school, this is new to us, this book. So bringing this book up to someone in our school, I think would be a great tool, because it will show them that there's other ways that we can bring in ideas to create change. And then second order change. I'll let Monique read that.
In their effort to identify research-based principles of school leadership, Marzano and his colleagues first conducted a meta-analysis designed to determine what 35 years of research tells us about school leadership. A total of 21 types of behavior called responsibilities by the authors were each identified as having a positive correlation with student achievement. These responsibilities were all found necessary in varying degrees to support day-to-day management of school. Effective leadership is defining characteristic of communities of learning where students' outcomes are equitable and excellent in the norm.
And then we have the references. This was the reference from Marzano, and then the other ones. And then, do we have any questions?
The other group have any questions or thoughts?
Very well done.
Yeah, I like how you guys made it more practical.
Yep. Brought a lot of.
Thank you.
Brought a lot of personal.
We had to, because it will be actually.
So how do we share it again, Molly?
How do you share it? You're going to share it with me.
Whoa.
It's okay. I'm gonna take it off.
Okay. I was scared. I'm like, what do I do? Okay. Oh, she said time's up. Oh, I didn't even see your message.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we said time's up. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was
It's okay. It was really interesting, I think, to hear the perspective from, you know, different demographics, in the sense of urgency, as you were able to clearly prioritize some things that were affiliated with turnaround. So I thought that was really helpful for the group and would be helpful to even see the interpretations of the same text in the applicable strategies that you talked about. So anything else for either group before I stop our broadcast?
No, I just think you guys did a really great job. I thought it was interesting from our perspective.
Yeah, both groups did a great job.